let's just get this rolling.
Yep.
Hello and welcome to the Miskatonic AV Club, a Mythos Busters production. I'm Sean. Joining me today is the first of probably many Mythos Busters interns that will be filling in, helping us get the AV Club back on track. Say hello to Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Sean. Some of you probably know me as LOTR Deck Tech. As you can see, Spokesbook telling me to get back to work on videos in the chat.
I have been thinking that you should turn your eye toward Arkham once in a while. Just I know it's tough to pull your attention away from Theoden, but it'd be fun.
I've been thinking about it. I probably will have to at some point.
All right, perfect. Well, today we're going to take a retake. That was a really Austin Powers type sentence. We're going to retake the Where Doom Awaits player card review because last time we had such monumental sound issues that we couldn't keep. It's out there, but we're going to be deleting it and putting this one up in its stead. So without further ado, let's hop right the hell into this thing. So the first card we have is a Level 0 leadership skill. No, not leadership skill. That's Lord of the Rings. It is a guardian skill called leadership. It has one wild icon. It has the practiced trait. And while leadership is committed to a skill test being performed by another investigator, leadership gains a willpower and another wild icon. I like the idea of this card, but in practice it has never delivered what I want it to deliver.
Really? I love this card.
Really? Okay, lay it on me. See, I knew bringing the interns on here would be good because sometimes Mythos Busters becomes a little bit of an echo chamber.
We have different opinions. So everyone likes playing Mystic, and Mystic cares a lot about willpower. And it is so nice to just be able to say, you want to cast a spell? Great. Here's 3 icons. Like, it's terrible to use by yourself. And if you don't have a Mystic to go with it, like, you just don't even bother. But as soon as you do, it's a free 3-icon skill. You can start with it at level 0, help guarantee those skill tests when you need them. It's nice.
Okay, I can see it in that very narrow usage. It would be a valid play. I mean,
I think it helps that every time I play multiplayer, there's always at least one Mystic.
Well, we tend to be about. Turns out Mystics kind of need other people to hoist them up a little bit because the end game is where we shine. We're second half teams, players.
Yeah.
Sports thing. Okay, I'll cede that it's probably good in that narrow situation, but oh god, I don't know. I suppose just considering this for general purpose is probably a bad idea because
if
it's a niche
if
card.
You're throwing it into a deck and you don't know what you're going to play with. Or, God forbid you think about putting it in a solo deck. That's just a mistake.
All right. Well, we shan't make that mistake. Let's move on to the next card, though. This one I'm less ambivalent about, I have to say.
Sure, I'll read it. All right, it is I've Had Worse, a 0-cost 4 XP Guardian event. Comes with 2 leadership icons and 1 agility icon. It is spirit traded, and it reads, fast, play when you are dealt damage or horror, cancel up to 5 damage or horror just dealt to you, then gain that many resources. This card is nuts.
I should say so. Taking a quick aside on the art, like I've never quite understood what happened here. Did she get in a fist fight like with a Yithian through the glass? Like I'm just not clear why we needed to have a fight with that side of the 50s diner. I suppose it wouldn't be 50s, this is the 20s, but
oh, you think that's a diner? That always looks like a car of some sort to me, which does not really make a ton of sense for exactly
oh no, it's a car.
we are.
No, you're right. I see the steering wheel now.
Oh, yeah, okay, nope, there it is. All right, good. Glad I'm on the right. Yeah, it seems like she just literally punched out a car, like this sort of arcade Street Fighter stage.
Yeah, I was about to say, she's going all Ryu on us. Okay. Okay, so for real though, this card is so good. This helps out so many of the Guardians who need help mitigating horror. And for a reasonable cost of XP, but at the same time, Guardians also tend to run very resource deficient because so many of their powerful assets, and possibly even powerful events, are kind of on the spendy side. So being able to just get a twofer in that direction, I love any card that turns a negative into a positive, so I'm over the moon. I've had worse.
Oh, absolutely. This card is fantastic. I mean, even if you only play it to cancel like 3 damage in horror, and then you get 3 resources, like that is already a big swing.
Yep.
And it's pretty easy to engineer situations, especially against tougher enemies, where you absorb even more than that. And then you pay for a lightning gun with all the damage you prevented, and everything is great.
Play your second one to mitigate the attack of opportunity. And, I don't know. I've had worse. Tends to find its way into most decks that can take it.
I wish it was slightly less XP so that our spoiled Calvin could get it, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, that'd be a heck of a thing for him, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, perhaps we'll get a lower level version later. That's always a thing that could happen.
It's true.
All right. So, moving on to the strange solutions. Up first is the acidic Ichor, or Echor, or Ichor. It is a level 4, 1 cost seeker asset, 2 fight icons, item and science traded. You can only include this asset in your deck by upgrading it from Strange Solution Unidentified, and only if you have identified the solution in your campaign log. Uses 3 supplies. Action, spend 1 supply. Fight, attack with a base combat skill of 6. This attack deals +2 damage. So, best foot forward, I feel.
This is definitely the strongest of these in most cases.
I feel like
it's real good.
This one pretty much negates the need for the other 2.
One of the others I still like, but the other one is definitely sort of trash in comparison. But 6 attack, 3 damage, like it's fantastic for Seeker. It is hard to get that kind of combat stats other than this.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Guardian doesn't have that many places where they could get this efficient a card. I mean, obviously you do have to go through the work of identifying the solution, but I've never found that to be overly hard.
I mean, you sort of want to start on it right away, right? Like,
yeah.
Ideally, you identify the solution in the first scenario of your campaign, and then as soon as you have the XP, you can buy this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you do buy this one. Now, kind of skipping ahead to future cards that were not out at the time of Dunwich. The level 3 emergency cash works really well with this because this uses supplies. Like, this can that card can put more supplies on this thing than it starts with.
Yeah,
that is insane.
That's one of the few really good uses of that level 3 emergency cash, I think.
Yeah. And looking even farther ahead, a card that's not even released yet, and we're just ahead of the Forgotten Age, is what was it called? It's basically it was a permanent that when you upgrade one of these unidentified.
Oh, what is that called? Shrewd Analysis.
Shrewd Analysis. Thank you. Yeah, so when you upgrade one of these unidentified assets, you get to take 2 for the price of 1, but they're random among the eligible. So, I don't know. I've used that before, and honestly, it's not too bad because you get the one you took, and then you just kind of get a free one. And
yeah, you have a good chance of getting this one, anyways.
Mm-hmm. And the other 2 are good. They just pale in comparison to this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I still don't like that level of randomness. Like, I'd rather just give me the Ichor that allows me to attack. I'll pay 8 XP for 2 of them. Like, it's worth it.
Yeah. It's going to vary item by item, I think. If, this continues to be a trend in Seeker and, like once per campaign they get some kind of unidentified item. Because I think the ones that come in Carcosa, the
The glyphs.
The glyphs and the guiding stones. Like, I would take either of those two. They're both really good for
Right. Those are less skewed.
Yeah. So I suppose we should start the anticlimax and read the other two.
We probably have to.
So tell us about freezing variant.
All right, Strange Solution Freezing Variant. It is a lot like the acidic Ichor, except it has 2 agility icons, comes into play with 4 supplies, and when you spend 1 supply, it allows you to evade with a base agility of 6.
Is this the
one you like? This is still good. Yeah, this is the one I like better than the other one. I mean, if you're playing solo, there's plenty of enemies that have more than 3 hit points, and you can just, throw a freezing potion at them and run away and not have to deal with that. It's not amazing, but it has its uses.
Yeah, and 6 is going to get you by most enemies.
Yeah, 6 is pretty huge. There's not a lot that has stats up that high. Most enemies come in at 4 at sort of the most. And you're looking at like big scenario-specific boss enemies if you're thinking 5 or higher.
Yeah, and this doesn't pin you down to non-elites, so that's the thing. A lot of these powerful effects do. Crazy, but yeah, I would definitely rank this as number 2 of the 3. And I feel like this is just conjecture, but I feel like, particularly in the upcoming Forgotten Age cycle, we're probably going to get more interactions with things that are exhausted or extra coincidental or ancillary. I don't know, whatever.
It does seem like we're pushing sort of evade heavy more with enemies that have sort of negative effects when you attack them or defeat them.
Yep. So I'll be interested to see if this thing's stock goes up in the next campaign specifically, because I don't know. I kind of like that each campaign will probably have its own kind of metagame to it, and every card has a different color in each campaign.
Oh, it's great. Some of them are just still so good that it's hard to imagine.
That's entirely fair.
Like them not being fantastic going forwards.
All right, so then we round out the trio with the Restorative Concoction. It is just like the other 2 we've discussed, except it has 2 willpower icons, 4 supplies, and you spend 1 supply in an action to deal 2 damage from any investigator at your location.
This is just bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just bad. I mean, it's efficient, but it is not worth the trouble that you go through and the XP cost. That's
right, and you don't usually need that much healing.
Yep.
I mean, we just talked about I've Had Worse, which is also a 4 XP card that doesn't take an action, happens sort of very flexibly, and turns that healing into resources.
And can block horror, which is a big thing.
Yeah. Like, in comparison, this just seems silly.
It is quaint. So let's move on from it. And let's look out for number 1.
All right. Joey the Rat is a rogue asset, takes up the ally slot, and he is, completely enough, ally and criminal traded. Costs you 4 resources. Comes with an intellect and an agility icon, if you feel like discarding him for that. 3 health, 2 sanity, and a action. Not technically an action, but you know what I mean. You can spend 1 resource as a fast action to play an item from your hand. You still have to pay the cost. And that is Joey the Rat.
Have you used him before?
I tried like 1 time. He is not my favorite. I see what they're going for, right? It's really nice sort of to think about dropping in weapons and other things that you need without having to spend an action to play them. And 1 resource for an action is actually like a really good trade. It's just that he's expensive, and Like, it just feels underwhelming when you get him in play.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately at the end of the day what he is, right? Is you're trading a resource for what would otherwise cost you an action. I mean, obviously, what
And you
you're able to
dodge
turn that action to
act
is
of opportunity, maybe.
right, and everything that goes along with not spending an action. But
Right.
I think the problem is sleight of hand exists. A lot of, well, many rogue cards are fast anyway. Or,
It's true.
in the case of the future Lupara, does not invoke an attack of opportunity.
Switchblade, you know.
So I just feel like he's serving a need that is not a very intense need, right? If I honestly, I'm all conjecture on Joey the Rat because I have not tried him yet. I just feel like there are so many better things to do with that ally slot in Rogue.
I replaced him with Cat Burglar pretty much right away.
Yeah.
I just like it might change later on, or if you have a particularly item heavy rogue character. But you know, even though he saves you actions and he lets you buy them at a really cheap cost, you usually don't play that many items in a given scenario.
Yeah, that's true. I want to like him because it's a cool effect, but I do not think it pulls weight for us.
I would not count this card out though. Like all it will take is one rogue or someone with access to rogue that cares about a ton of items, and then Joey the Rat could pop up and be incredibly impactful.
That's true. Or an investigator that gets a bonus for having or just playing certain types of cards that happen to be items.
Yeah, if we get is it Charlie Kane, the politician?
Oh, Charlie
just
for president.
Like constantly dropping money and stuff on the table.
That could definitely be.
Joey the Rat would be perfect in that deck.
I love the idea of the politician's favorite ally being a criminal.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. All right, so a card that's I suppose less overtly or more overtly good. We're gonna go with Ace in the Hole, which is a level 3 exceptional though, so technically 6 XP. Rogue event, 0 cost, trick traded, fast, play only during your turn. You may take an additional action this turn. So I heard actions are one of the more valuable currencies we have in the game.
I am so glad that this card is fast. It would be so much less incredible if it took an action to play. This card is great.
Yeah.
And you get to take 2 turns at once. It does cost you 6 XP.
That is a thing. When I've taken this, it tends to have that like heavy card syndrome where I never ever see it because it's a one of, and I've never really found rogues to be very draw heavy. Granted, I haven't played a really evadey rogue since leveled up pickpocketing came out, so maybe that's changed. But I don't feel like a rogue digs very deep. So if you got these kind of bomb one ofs, happens a lot where you just don't see them.
It is definitely a challenge. I took it with Safina so that I could have a better chance of having it sort of stashed.
Mm-hmm.
Although maybe she can't actually do that.
Well, she can't.
I am thinking.
She can stash it. She just can't play Painted World off of it. That's
right. She can copy it.
Yep.
Which is fine. Like just better odds of having your ace in the hole is definitely good. Yeah. You're right though. Like if you don't draw it, it's not doing you anything. And it sort of sits in your hand while you wait for that turn where you can actually do something valuable with 6 actions. Because if you play this card and you use your last 2 actions to draw cards or gain resources, it just feels bad.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, though. When I've played Rogue lately, because I went a long time without playing a whole lot of Rogue, and then I jumped into Skids and Safina for Carcosa, they tend to have kind of these bide your time bomb turns, right? Like they're kind of setting up, they're evading things here and there, drawn in, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I can evade this enemy, hit him twice, quick thinking, ace in the whole 3 more actions, defeat the enemy, investigate, move in, pop the act. Like this, they just have those moments where it's like, okay, now all the pieces move.
Oh yeah, definitely. Rogue is very sort of combo oriented in a way, right? Like you bide your time, you build up all the resources in your hand, you drop an event, you double or nothing to get a ton of damage, you do a bunch of stuff all at once. Like, and this definitely fits into that style.
Yeah, I feel like I should play more. Like she's right in my wheel. That's the part of Rogue that I really, really like. But,
I'm surprised you don't play Safina more.
I mean, she's basically Mystic, right? Can we all agree on that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Safina's not released yet. Haha. Back in time. So let's talk about Moonlight Ritual. I believe this one's you.
All right, Moonlight Ritual is a nice, easy one. It is a mystic event, spell and insight traded, costs you 0 resources, and has an intellect and agility icon if you want that. Its effect is nice and simple. Remove all the doom from one card you control.
All right. So, saw the seeds of the whole Doom play thing straight away in the core set with the Arcane. Got what have we gotten since? We've gotten Alyssa.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else comes and gives you Doom on player cards.
Oh, Blood Pact.
Before this, Blood Pact, yeah.
Blood Pact and Alyssa, I think, are the main two.
Oh, and then eventually you get Renfield.
Oh, yes, you
do. Until Renfield, I think this card is a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I agree. I ran it in a gym build that used, initiates, and then one of the first things I took was Blood Pact, and that was pretty okay. The problem is if you're really playing with Doom play, it can get rough because you want to make sure you've got that release valve ready, because the last thing you want to do is pop an agenda 5 turns too easy just because you lost the wrong card at the wrong time. So
yeah, if you don't have the Moonlight Ritual, it is so easy to speed up the encounter deck.
Yeah, far too easy. I love that about Mystic, but yeah, this one's great when it shows up at the right time, which maybe again, Sophie, right? Try this deck. Anyway, going to be a staple in any deck that plays with Doom, I feel.
Yes.
But if that's not a focus of your deck, you're just...
Yeah, if you have like more than 1 or 2 cards that add Doom to themselves, you probably want this. I mean, it doesn't do you much for your Arcane Initiates that only ever have 1. But, anything that gets more than 1, potentially save yourself a couple turns.
Yep. Say about that one. So let's move on to Fearless. Is this me?
Yeah, this is you.
It's me. All right. Fearless is a level 2 Mystic skill. It has 2 willpower icons. It is innate and developed. It has some of the best art in the game. And if this skill test is successful, heal 1 horror, 2 horror instead if it succeeds by 2 or more.
Definitely agree with you on this having some of the best art in the game. This card looks fantastic.
It's so Arkham. Yeah, so this one I feel like I tend to take at least 1 Fearless in most Mystics. Particularly the ones that tend to like horror or tend to just end up with horror, which is most of them because they're dribbling. Yeah, and then this upgrade for a measly 2, it's a nice boost to your spell and heal a couple horror off.
Fearless 1 or Fearless 0 only gives you 1 willpower icon, right?
Yep.
Okay. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't basically never upgrade this.
Oh, you don't think the extra horror is worth it?
I mean, if it wasn't an extra icon, you still have to invest a bunch to get 2 horror healed.
Mm-hmm.
And, succeeding by 2 is not really part of the sort of standard Mystic wheelhouse. But when you add that extra willpower icon on top of it, it definitely gets more worth it.
Yeah. I feel like Agnes Okay, for any of them that are kind of heavily using spells, I think that tends to be how a lot of mystics rack up horror, because they tend to be a little bit more well protected against the treacheries that come out that would. But most of them kind of want some way to deal with sanity going away, whether it's voice it off on an ally, whether you're Agnes and you can take Peter Sylvester, or Fearless is just a nice thing to have.
I mean, I definitely rate it much higher for Agnes than the others, because others can easily sort of give horror to give horror to assets, allies, etc. But Agnes wants to take the horror herself in order to dish out that juicy damage.
Yep. So I don't know. I think for the most part, when I'm playing Fearless in a Mystic or whoever it happens to be, it tends to go in the space where Guts would normally go in a normal Investigator.
I still bring Guts with Mystic.
Oh, you like to draw cards.
Yeah, cards are pretty good. This is a card game after all.
I know. It's tough when things they do juicy things though. Draw a card. Tough.
It's true.
All
right,
so
moving on to
read this one.
All right, next up is the Jewel of Aureolus, the gift of the homunculi. I did say it right that time. It is a mystic accessory, item and relic traded. Costs you 3 resources and 3 XP. If you discard it to skills, you get 1 wild icon. And if you play it, you wear it around your neck, you have this juicy response. After a skull, cultist, tablet, elder thing, or tentacles symbol is revealed during a skill test at your location, exhaust the Jewel of Aureolus to either draw a card or gain 2 resources. I don't think I've ever actually played this card.
Really? Oh, okay. So is it because whatever Mystic you're playing, or this would be for what, Mystic or Lola? They have a trinket slot already taken?
I don't know. It just ends up being kind of expensive. I think it's going to see more use soon, again with spoiled cards. But I don't know. I have never actually bought it. And Casey in the chat is reacting like I'm insane right now.
Okay, so here's one question. What do you find yourself mostly playing? True solo, fake multiplayer, or real multiplayer?
Oh, mostly true solo for sure, which definitely
that's a big thing.
Sort of makes this card less valuable because you just don't see as many tokens.
Yeah, I think in true solo the only time you take this is if you've already got your 2 grotesque statues. But in multiplayer,
there's like so many other things that you want to spend XP on as mystics. Grotesque statues, upgraded spells.
In multiplayer, though, this tends to be like early mid-campaign buy for me. Because, if you're trucking around with other people, as you often do, you see more tokens, this turns into a thing. I don't know, I've had good luck with this one. As long as I don't have something really juicy that is otherwise intended for that accessory slot, I'm pretty positive on this card.
Well, and you can always take Relic Hunter in order to get an extra one if you really want it.
Yeah, we are almost to the point where I can see arguments for Relic Hunter. That makes me uncomfortable.
I've only seen one deck on ArkhamDB that has Relic Hunter that made me think that is a good purchase for this deck.
Yeah. It's probably going to be, Mystic and Seeker probably going to be the one likely to take it. I tend to...
Oh, this was a Yorick deck that was using Key of Wise and the Teddy Bear. Because the Teddy Bear takes up the necklace slot.
I always forget about that. It does. All right. So let's move on to the next one. A Chance Encounter is a level 0 survivor event. It's 1 cost. Willpower and intellect icons. Fortune traded. Can't take it. Sorry, Rax. Use an ally asset in any player's discard pile. Put that asset into play. Roll at the end of the round. If that asset is still in play, discard it. So This one's interesting in theory because you look at it and you can kind of see the combo potential. Any of those? Is it just the Miskatonic allies so far that have a interplay effect? Is that their
Um,
thing?
it is mostly Seeker allies that have interplay effects, which
Aside
definitely
from the
is a
Arcane
reasonable
Edition,
use
of
for this
course.
card. Oh yeah.
Not going to count that. But I suppose the whole idea here is you're either pulling something back from your own discard pile, having planned it. Like I ran this in a deck that ran 2 copies of the Red Gloved Man,
Yes.
and that's pretty okay for. Oh, sorry, hang on, I'm getting a thing.
Sure.
Oh, I did not know my computer would ring. Good old Google Fi.
That's always a wonderful thing to find out.
Oh. Okay, anyway, so ideally in multiplayer, you're targeting some ally that use for a turn either for its God, I don't know. Do you plan to use this for its ability? Do you just like pull an ally in so you can take an attack of opportunity? That doesn't make sense because this itself would take an attack of opportunity to.
Yeah, there's a lot of allies you could pull back that are not super useful. Like I've used it to pull out the stray cat and then use the stray cat to evade an enemy in a multiplayer game before. But like that's that's a very strange and specific situation.
It sure is.
I think Red Glove Man is definitely the best. Get that nice stat boost again, and it already was a sort of fleeting ally anyways.
Yeah, so really all you're losing is the one action to pull him back. But then again, you're still then at 2 actions at 6 base skill.
Yeah.
That's a pretty decent place to be most of the time. I don't know. I'll be interested to see if this one comes back because the more allies we get with some kind of enters play or maybe even a leaves play, when this ally leaves play, something cool happens. The stock on this one definitely.
Definitely.
All right. Moving on then to a stroke of luck. Or just stroke of luck. No definite article.
Stroke of Luck is a survivor skill. Costs you 2 XP. It is innate and fortunate traded, and it contributes just 1 wild icon to a skill test that you are performing. And after you reveal chaos tokens for this test, you may choose to exile Stroke of Luck. If you do, this test is automatically successful. There's a little parenthetical here that sort of tells you that if you draw tentacles and auto-fail instead, you cannot do that, because auto-fail takes priority.
Further making the tentacle token bulletproof.
It's pretty hard to avoid.
Which, makes sense. Because, Darkham, you always want failure to be an option.
Yes, although Survivor is clearly the best at sort of denying that possibility when you want it.
That's true.
This card is great.
Okay, so how often do you find yourself actually exiling it versus just being like, okay, this test can't fail, get my +1, chances are I'm fine. Like, are those the 2 situations, or is there anything in between?
It's usually those, right? Like you commit it to a test that you think, I need this test to succeed, and this will basically guarantee it. And, either you draw a good token and you don't have to exile it, in which case you succeeded at your test and you save 2 XP, or you have to exile it, but hopefully succeeding at this test is worth it. I've never played it and drawn the tentacles. That would be bad.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So basically you have the choice of you would never exile it after pulling a tentacle because then it doesn't fire.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't bother in that case. You just sort of discard it. You're like, okay, that's fine. And if you're Wendy or something, right, you have an extra chance to pull a token that might be better.
Yeah. See, this is one that I love the idea of, and it's absolutely a good card. I just cannot remember the last time I actually found 2 experience for it. Like, it's just one of those effects that I think I look at and I go, yeah, and then I find something else.
I've started to feel a lot better about it. Sort of when I stopped upgrading Lucky 2 and Emergency Cash 2 really early on in campaigns. Like, those used to be some of the first cards I upgraded with sort of any leftover experience. Because, like, just tacking draw a card onto an already good card is great. But, like, this card has the potential to have such a higher impact on the game.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try this one out. I think it is good, though.
Well, play it in a Wendy with Charon's Obol now. You get that juicy extra XP all the time.
That's true. I mean, at the end of the day, though, like, Survivor still has yet to get a card over 3 XP, so it's not like upgrading a Survivor Investigator's expensive. So if you've got an effect that you like and end up using, like, why not pay to renew it?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we talked about a 3 damage weapon card already that costs you 4 XP, and Survivor gets one for 1 XP, but you can only use it once. There's just like a tons of cheap cards that you end up buying over and over again because the value they give is way out of proportion to the XP cost that you pay for them.
All right. So, I feel we must move on. A moment of respite, which is a neutral level 3. It's 3 cost as well. 2 spirit willpower icons. It has the spirit trait. Play only if there are no enemies at the location. Heal 3 horror and draw 1 card. So when this was previewed, I really liked the idea of it.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, I think it's just really expensive, and because of that, I've never actually found room for it.
I wouldn't mind if it were a 0 resource cost card. Like, if it were basically emergency cash, except for healing horror, that would be, like, that's the sort of amount that I would happily pay for this.
Yeah. 3 XP is not nothing, and being able to heal horror, good, but it does have a drawback. You can only, there are no enemies at your location, like, not even just engaged with you. So if someone else is tangling with an enemy at your location, multiplayer, you cannot play this card.
And that's a fantastic sort of thematic restriction, right? You get a moment of peace because there's no monsters around.
You just chilling in the corner while your friend is.
Yeah, it doesn't make so much sense if somebody else is fighting monsters right next to you.
Off in the corner with a ghoul. Auto. Yeah, I guess if there's an investigator that really, really needs help healing horror, more than any other investigator we have now.
Yeah, if you really, really need it, you should probably just buy the Elder Sign Amulet instead.
Can't argue against that. Unless, I suppose, you really also need your trinket, your accessory slot.
Yeah, you could concoct a scenario where Moment of Respite is the best card for your situation, but it's not going to come up very often in actual play.
No one's playing it now. Go with that. And oddly enough, we have the benefit of hindsight on the next card.
We really do. All right, the last player card in the pack is Fine Clothes. It is a neutral asset, costs you 1 resource, level 0. It is an item, and it is clothing. Fits in the body slot. Gives you an agility icon if you pitch it to a test, 1 health and 1 sanity buffer. And it reduces the difficulty of skill tests you perform during parlay actions by 2.
Thoughts?
Soon, not when this card came out, but shortly after, right? You get the beginning of Carcosa with so many parlay tests, and it becomes so good then. I appreciate the sort of trickery of the fact that you can nest other skill tests sort of inside your parlay. by playing a bunch of skills and fast events to get extra actions in there. But like this is so scenario specific.
Yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, like it's always what I come back down to, that a level 0 neutral 1-cost card with a 1/1 soak, that's not bad. Like even for those scenarios where you don't really end up utilizing the parlay, for a body slot that most investigators at this point don't really care a ton about.
That is definitely true. The body slot is very underused.
I'm sure we'll get to a point where that's no longer the case, but at least where we sit now, it feels like if you got a card with a body slot, like that's probably just your card for the body slot. There's not really a lot to like. There are factions that don't even have cards that go in the body slot.
Yeah, I think if you discount Fine Clothes, there isn't another faction that has 2.
Probably.
Mystic
doesn't even.
Oh, I guess Bulletproof Vests, they all have access to them.
Oh yeah,
but like, that's 2 body slots that are neutral. And I don't know how many other body slots I can name. There's the leather coat. There's the Guardian armor. There must be another one, but this is not a.
Bandelier's body slot.
Oh yeah, okay.
But yeah, that's about all I got. I don't even think Rogue has a body slot there.
Yeah, it's not a common slot.
Anyway, speaking of Rogue, I feel like this is a particularly good Rogue card, oddly enough, since Rogues have access to Adaptable, and this is so intensely scenario specific. Like, as I was mentioning, 1-cost 1/1 soak on the body slot, fine. It's a good card at that point, but in the right scenario, this becomes like an amazing card.
Absolutely, and if you can swap it in and out, this is a fantastic sort of tool to have in your toolbox.
Yepers. All right, well that wraps it up for the player cards for Where Doom Awaits. Chris, any final thoughts on this pack?
This is a pretty ridiculous pack in a few ways. Like the cards in this pack that are really good are incredible. And the hit rate is really high for this pack in comparison to some others.
And I feel like even for most of the ones that don't hit, they're just waiting for the right set of cards, and then they'll.
Well, not all of them, but
no, not all.
Poor Moment of Respite will maybe get there eventually. Probably not, but maybe.
I don't even think Carolyn looks at this card.
No.
How bad
you
is
definitely don't. It's pretty sad.
All right. Well, then that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Miskatonic AV Club. We'll see you guys next time for Lost in Time and Space. All right. So everyone in the